This is Fritz Frivolous with continuous live coverage of the corner of Curious Lane and Just Because Boulevard, the epicenter of the alien invasion. And this just in, King Kong is fighting the Mobile Suit Gundam. And of course, all of this is happening amidst World War IV, making it pure pandemonium. If only Captain Planet were still alive to save us all. Dude, could you imagine? Your eyes become irritated. Your eyelids feel heavy. You find it increasingly difficult to concentrate, and then you yawn. Now you're just mere moments away from what many people feel like they don't get enough of, sleep. But what if sleep never came? What if you never had to sleep? What would you do? You're about to hear a discussion between two so-called scientists, Will and Tom, about this sleepy subject. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. This is Dude, Could You Imagine? I'm Tom Case.
And I'm Will Stark.
Well, I know that tonight you're actually kind of very tired.
Extremely so. I'm drinking some English tea right now, though, so hopefully that helps.
Hopefully that will help. Tea is good. Tea will definitely try to get you back up into the realm of the awakened.
Yes, absolutely.
But have you ever thought, what if you never had to sleep?
Oh, God, dude, I wish I never had to sleep. Are you kidding me?
Would.
I was literally talking to my buddy about this the other day. It's like, what if we just didn't have to sleep? I would like a life where I don't have to sleep, and instead of a 24-hour day, I want a 36-hour day. I could get more done.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, it's not necessarily that I love to sleep, but I do like it. You know what I mean? I like when I get the sleepy feeling. You know what I mean? Like,
really?
I do get some enjoy. Like there are some times where I'm like, oh man, you know what? I'm going to go home. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to lay in bed and I'm going to get that sleepy feeling. You know what I mean? And I wait for it almost like for a drug to like come and, seep into my veins.
Wow,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
yeah, that's very different from me.
Don't do drugs, folks.
I don't, it's not that I don't like sleeping. I just don't care that I never like feeling like I'm forced to do something, and I can't help but feel like nature is forcing me to spend 8 hours plus in bed sleeping, unconscious, when I could be doing something. You know me, I'm the man of a million hobbies, and quite frankly, there's many hobbies I've had to let fall off, not for lack of passion, but for I have to pick and choose. Yeah, I have to pick and choose what I want to be into, what I want to do.
You do bring up a good point. That's actually one of the reasons I was thinking about this was my fiance. Well, probably by the time you guys hear this, if anyone's listening, she'll be my wife. So my wife.
Woo,
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, well, you're going to get married soon, hopefully.
Well, not soon. Well, I mean, we're engaged, but yeah. But anyways, we don't.
She was rewatching one of the Twilight films, right?
Oh, yeah.
And go Team Edward. And so she was watching one, and you know what? She told me on one of the scenes, it's actually their honeymoon. And, she's asleep on the bed, and he's watching her, and then he just goes and walks outside. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's kind of weird. What is he doing? And she said, well, vampires don't have to sleep.
Yeah.
And that is what sparked this question.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, what if you never had to sleep? Yeah. What would you do? Well, and like someone like you, I could already see it. I know you would have you would have probably 100 podcasts that you could do, and
I would have a heavily regimented schedule of everything just so I could fit it all in. Twilight's a good example of this question because I've read all the books and they're okay. They're fine. But one of the interesting things about the vampires is none of them do sleep, and so all of them end up becoming savants in many different fields. Like whether it be science, philosophy, art, whatever. Like all the vampires are really talented because guess what? They've lived 300 years of not having to sleep, and you get bored, so you do stuff. So yeah, I would definitely try and pursue. I would definitely pay way more attention to my musical abilities, which they're fine. I get rusty here and there, and then I work it back up. But like, I would love to compose more albums. I would love to dive into more instruments, more styles of music. I'd love to learn more languages. I'd love to finish many of the books that I've wanted to start and just haven't gotten around to. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
You see, I would probably watch way more movies and play video games.
I would too. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, I'll be honest though. Yeah, I could think of a lot of things to do too, but I mean, there's got to be a point. I mean, this is just a question of what if you never had to sleep, but our lives are finite. But like a vampire's life technically could go on forever.
True. Immortality.
I mean, I guess you would probably just start doing anything and everything that you could, unless maybe you're content to just sit there. Maybe that's what they,
Well, like, I mean, if we start getting into immortality, like there's a lot of odd questions that kind of come up. For one, like our brains aren't really wired to exist for that long. Like eventually you will run out of space up there when it comes to memory and stuff. Like what does that mean when you come to the end of it? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, do you just stop being able to process things? Do you just lose things off the back end? You know what I mean? Like when you're 1,000 years old, do you just not really remember the first 300 years?
Yeah,
your original life,
right?
Like your childhood, your parents, weird. Like
your first significant love, or like the one that you did fall in love with,
right?
Because after that, and if they're not a vampire and they're not living forever, like they're going to die off.
Exactly, I mean? But also like it's very much within human nature to get used to anything, right? Like, no matter how extreme an environment is, for the most part, like it will eventually become normalized in your human mind. It's why, like, even now, where we live with uncounted luxuries compared to the old world, we're equally as discontent, because discontentment is not found in our environment; it's found from within. But anyways, where was I? So where does your discontentment go when you have everything you want, have lived for as long as you want, have done everything you ever wanted to, and there's no more novelty to be searched out in this world? Like, where do we go? Like,
exactly. And on top of that, you're not sleeping.
Yeah, and
you're
not
always
sleeping.
awake. You're always aware of that you're not doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think it was in an episode of Grey's Anatomy, which is another show my wife likes. Yeah, and I remember hearing in there they said, and I don't know how true this is, but the main character has like a little, lead into the show, and she's narrating, and she says something about sleep and how scientists actually really don't know why we actually have to sleep, even though I've heard things about. Like, which I'm sure you're going to say, like, that's the time when your body does the most healing and,
that is a
things
big part
like that.
Of it, yeah.
And probably.
My understanding is primarily healing, which is actually a really huge deal. But the other thing is processing of the day's information.
Yeah. Is that also, too, like when you're dreaming?
Yes.
Oh,
from my understanding, the theory is that, like, we require sleep or consciousness. Kind of like when you defrag a computer. Like, you're just compiling the information, processing it, storing it away, throwing away what you don't need, and starting with, theoretically, a cleaner slate the next day.
So it's like one of those things where all the information I may have not even noticed that I've received.
Yeah. Well, think about it.
And my brain is processing that, so then it'll make me, lose my teeth in a dream, right?
Sure. Like, as for like the nature of dreams or why they are the way they are, I don't know. That's anyone's guess. But yeah, I mean, even the thing I just said is just a theory. Like, it's not really known, but.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, if you think about it, like, think about all of our senses, like, and the constant assault upon them: smell, taste, hearing, pressure, temperature, all that other stuff. This is all information your brain is not only processing, but doing so instantly, constantly, all day.
Yeah, and you're never aware of it, really. Yeah. Like, you're not conscious. Yeah. I'm not consciously thinking that.
And that's on top of the conscious thinking. That's on top of the strategizing, the living your life, the stress, the eating, the bodily functions, all having to be operated by the brain. It's all operated by the brain. Like, your brain's got to rest at some point.
Which I remember you and I did have a previous conversation, but about people consciously thinking. And you can hear your own thought, right? You can you can hear yourself. I can hear my own voice.
When I think, I do hear my own voice speaking, as if it is speaking. Like, it is fully within my control. It's as if I am talking, but just without my mind.
Like how they do in the movies or on a show.
Yeah,
where it's like kind of echoey in their thinking, so you know what they're thinking.
Exactly, yes.
That's how I hear it in my head. But I know you mentioned that there was, some, like, almost half the population, like other half the population,
don't think like that.
Don't hear that,
yes, they
serial killers. But,
well, it's like, there's another thing too, when I'm reading words on a page, a book, whatever. The sounds of the words I hear, in my voice, in my head. Does that make sense? Does that happen for you?
Yeah, like you're talking about.
So, like, when I read this and it says Wednesday, February 2021, I hear my own voice in my head. Yes, exactly. So, for some people, that's not the case.
Wow, and I can't even imagine that. Like, I cannot fathom that you can't hear yourself.
Yeah,
like,
there it is.
To me, I don't know. It sounds like you don't. I mean, everyone has a brain, but it almost sounds like you don't have your own mind.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, here's another thought in that line of thought is, let's move to images, like in our minds when we're imagining something. Like, so you see that cup there on the table, like imagine that same cup in your mind, like on a scale of 1 to 10 being that actual physical cup in front of you, and 1 being you see absolutely nothing, like how tangible is that cup in your mind? Like how physical, how real does it feel in your imagining?
Feels very real.
Very
feels
real.
Very
yeah. Some people struggle. Like I would say for me, it's somewhere between a 5 and a 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah,
like
1 to 10.
1 to 10.
With 10 being like the thing in your mind is as real to you right now as the
I would have to say probably
right
7 to 9.
Yeah,
somewhere between.
It's really that's really high. That's
I can see the
for
cup.
some people it's as low as a 1 or a 0, if you will. Like
wow.
Some people our brains work differently, man. I don't know what else there's to say about that. But
anyways, go back to the sleep thing. The sleep thing, that would be. I would imagine though, you are right. Like at least physically, that would have to put such a strain on your eyes. Like at some point, you'd probably have to look like you're sleeping,
right?
And just rest your eyes for a bit. Yeah, you know what I mean.
True. That's
I wonder how much damage that would do to someone's vision, like their eyes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we're just talking about like if you never had to sleep. I'm not talking about if you have any other sort of, you're not a vampire,
right?
You're not going to live forever.
Examples, but yes,
you're just like you are. You just don't sleep.
Well, crap. What was I going to say? Oh, as someone who constantly suffers from a lack of sleep because I'm always so busy, like I just wish I could have the limited amount of sleep I do have now and just be fine. But unfortunately, I'm not. Like my week starts on a Wednesday, and usually I'm fresh because I just got off my weekend. But by the time Sunday comes around, which is the end of my work week and going into my weekend, I am an utter mental mess. And I'm getting through all the things I need to do at that time through sheer force of will and discipline alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I know I need more sleep, and I try to get more sleep, but life is not so accommodating at times. And if I could choose to never need to sleep, I would definitely choose that. Like in D&D, one cool thing that elves have is they don't sleep like humans do. They go into like a trance state where they are semi-awake. They can do small things like they can read, they can meditate. They can't really walk around, but they could just low activity kind of deal.
Yeah.
And they only need to do it for 6 hours, and then they are perfectly rested. And they don't have to dream if they don't want to either. So that is something I would super pay someone to give me that power, please.
He's like, please let me do that.
Because it means even while I'm resting, I could be productive by reading. Like right now I'm reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I've really been struggling to find the time to get it in. Even though I just told myself, just read 2 pages a day. Like if I had that meditation power, I'd read the whole thing in a night. It'd be great.
You know what's weird is a friend of mine actually has, and I wish I could remember what it's called, but it's like something that they're starting to be aware of where, he wakes up, but he's always tired. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It's like.
Does he have sleep apnea?
No, he gets his 8 hours, you know what I mean? Like everything, he doesn't have sleep apnea and everything, but it's this condition where it's very hard for him to wake up. Mm-hmm. Like he'll wake up feeling very groggy, very tired. Yeah. He'll always want to go back to sleep. Like if he could go back to sleep, he would. Yeah. But he has to force himself to go. And at first when I heard it too, I was like, oh yeah, everyone's like that, but it's not like that. Nightmare. Yeah, you know what I mean?
As someone who, I'm sure what he's going through is way worse than anything I've ever experienced. But as someone who gets exceptionally tired, throughout most weeks, there are a few worse feelings, man. It's miserable. And even when you are being productive, you're not being productive at the level of the quality level that you want to be. You're at 50% capacity, and you're pushing your way through. And but the problem is on the flip side, I always feel like I don't have enough time. I want more time.
I know.
I think that's what everyone wants. So a little bit back on the immortality thing. Here's a question for you. You get to choose we'll just say before you're born. Okay. In a vacuum. By some non-descriptive entity. We don't need to get into that. Basically tells you, okay, you get to live a human life. How long do you want your lifespan to be? What do you choose?
Okay, now you said to bring it back to immortality. Can I choose to live forever?
Yes, that is an option.
I would choose to live forever. You choose
immortality?
Oh, yeah.
What if that immortality meant you truly could never die, no matter what you do?
Yes, because of the fact that I am just way too curious. Okay. I need to know. I want to know what's going to happen next. You know what I mean? if there was a way right now, someone's like, hey, you know what? You can go under this procedure right now and it'll add 100 years to your life.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going to happen in 100 years.
Yeah,
I would be so curious. I would try to get that done. Yeah.
Okay. So let me change your mind, because you got to understand that immortality means forever. It means eternity, and eternity never ends. And so let's say you did theoretically live forever, and throughout most of this universe's existence, you managed to stay in a comfortable, livable societal way.
Yeah.
Come the end of the universe, when all the stars start dying, like, you will run out of places to go. And as a matter of fact, there will be a point of time where whatever planet you're on, you're stuck there, because by that time, the universe has stretched so far apart that travel between stars isn't even possible anymore. After that happens, stars die, everything goes dark. Matter itself will begin to be ripped apart. Yeah. Because you're immortal, we'll say that doesn't happen to you. But at some point, you get trapped in a void 1 trillion years from now that never ends. And at some point in this eternal infinity of darkness and cold, where nothing ever happens again, like, you forget that you were ever alive and have memories of doing things ever again. Period. End of story. Are you sure you want to live forever?
Way to take the fun out of immortality, Will. No, you know what? Okay, yeah, I never thought of that. Like, I always thought, you're all right. Immortality is supposed to be living forever. Yeah. But, you know, you never truly think, I never really truly think what is forever. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would think at some point.
And I just gave you the ideal. Like, what if society collapses and we never escape this planet? Guess what happens in 3.5 billion years? Our sun is going to turn into a red giant. The Earth's going to immolate. And then you're just going to be stuck wandering, like, floating around the sun till it dies.
Well, the problem with we're talking about immortality, but we never talk about invulnerability. Like,
well, that's what I mean.
Maybe like, I wouldn't die, but I would be constantly, you know, suffocating because I'm in space or getting burned by the sun because I'm so close. Like, that would be hell.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what? Let me change my mind. I would say 300 year span.
You think 300 years?
You know, at least 300. You know,
I think if I got to choose, if someone was like, we can give you the lifespan of whatever you want, you can choose whatever it is. I think 1,000 years is enough for me.
1,000 years?
1,000 years is enough for me. And at least no matter what, even if by year 800 I'm sick of it all, like, well, I know I'm on a time limit and it's going to end soon. So
yeah, that would suck. That would suck if then you got this power this year and then nuclear holocaust 2022. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh shit, I got 999 years.
Well, that's another thing too, is if I did get the choice, I would want it at the very beginning so that I could take precautions. Like, if it were to happen now, I don't want to have to deal with the heartbreak of watching, like, my wife and kids pass away.
I know,
and all
that's
like,
the main thing too. Yeah. I actually, those are the things that do come into my mind, even though not saying, you know, like, it would be such a temptation for if somebody could give this to you and they're asking you, do you want it? Mm-hmm. You know, I would not want to have to leave my wife or have my wife leave me due to death because she's not immortal.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah, there would definitely, you know, there would definitely have to be stipulations on that.
Yeah, there are a few decisions in life that are truly actually simple, and deciding whether we want to be immortal is definitely not one of them.
Dude, could you imagine?
Breaking news, a new study suggests leaving an iTunes review is very important for newly created podcasts. So to nurture your new favorite podcast, make sure to leave an iTunes review. This has been Fritz Frivolous, reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe. Will and Tom, back to you. The Incredible Hulk, man or monster? An experiment with gamma radiation gone awry, Dr. Bruce Banner now transforms into the raging green Goliath known as the Hulk whenever he becomes angry or overly stressed. But have you ever wondered, what if the military actually created a Hulk? Or even worse, an army of Hulks? Tonight, we have two of the nation's leading theorists talking about if we had a Hulk.
I was rewatching the MCU. I was watching Captain America.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously we know the origins of Captain America, you know, super soldier serum, you know, and then, you know, years and years later, Bruce Banner, you know, Dr. Bruce Banner was trying to achieve the same thing.
Right. Theoretically.
Essentially, right? But he was using other
radiation.
means and with gamma radiation, and then that totally messed him up. Then birthed the Hulk.
Sure. Yes.
But I was thinking, we already know, like, it's simple. Like, Captain America, he's in the military. He was, he was America's man. Like, sure. like he was Joe Military. You know what I mean? Like, he wanted to be in the military.
He did. I don't know if I'd call him Joe Military.
What is that?
Just because he wasn't like a jarhead. He didn't have like that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah. That's not what I meant with Joe Military.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like Joe Military as in, he wanted to be that. He wanted to be a soldier.
He was your quintessential all-American hero, right? Like this idealized thing that never really existed, except for in Steve Rogers. But go ahead.
Yeah. And, for the most part, other than, Steve Rogers starting to become disillusioned with our own government. I guess in the comic books, he
that happens
to happen
all the time. Yeah.
What I was thinking was, what if it was Bruce Banner? What if it was Hulk that the military got a hold of? Because in the whole time that the Hulk is, especially in the comic books, General Thunderbolt Thunder T. Ross, right?
Yeah,
he was trying to go after the Hulk. Now he had other motives to try to get the Hulk, but like. The government as a whole kind of saw him as, well, you know what? He either made a really bad mistake or he did something really right, and we want that back.
Right, we want to control it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so, but what are you asking me here?
So I just want us to go through what do you see in your head? Like, if we did have the Hulk in our military, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So the ramifications of that, of having
it's
the famous words
nuke
from Tony Stark, right?
Yeah.
We have a Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like having a nuke.
It's a nuke that, it's somewhat.
So I have a few questions. Like, how much control do we have over this theoretical Hulk? Like, can we point him in a direction and he goes?
Yeah, he.
Can we stop him whenever we want?
So here's the thing. I know that there's a lot of iterations of the Hulk. There's Professor Hulk, there's Joe Fixit, there's Savage Hulk, whatever, This is I'm just talking the classic Hulk,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
where he has the mind of
if you were to drop him somewhere, he's going to cause mayhem, but you can't decide who or how or what.
Well, you could convince him, you can condition him a little bit to kind of, I don't want to say trick him, but to influence him to say, hey, those people are bad. You need to go and take care of that. Or what I actually see them using him more so is that weapons cache over there, or that silo of, missile silo, we need that gone.
Okay.
And they could just drop him in there and
he'll destroy.
He would destroy everything there. But there is that risk. You never know if that military base that you're going after, maybe kind of close to some civilian, area.
Right. Sure. So my next question is the operation of the Hulk public knowledge?
You know what? Let's say no. I don't think our government, if we had that, I do not think they would make that public knowledge.
And this leads to a third question. Do we have a reliable way of keeping this covered up? Maybe not foolproof, because nothing's foolproof, but are we pretty certain, we got this 90% covered?
Yeah, because I think the masses would be easily fooled with their propaganda. They would probably putting out stuff where it wasn't them. They didn't put the Hulk there. Bruce Banner's traveling around. They would probably that's how I would see it.
We're not denying that a Hulk exists. Just we're denying.
No.
I don't know. That's tricky because how do you prove that the Hulk just happens to keep targeting our enemies? How do you sell that? You know what I mean?
True. I mean, yeah, that's one way to look at it. I was looking at it, well, there's no way to also prove that he's with the military as well.
True.
But, you bring up a good point. If everyone's always, whoever the,
If the Hulk is always targeting American enemies,
there's
at
some point someone's going to be wait a minute.
What's going on
some
here?
journalist, some whistleblower, they're going
exactly,
to go,
Exactly.
Yeah, that is true.
But on the flip side, if the public knew we had a Hulk, I think there's no fucking way the government gets away with using it, because you can't justify pure chaotic destruction in the way that the Hulk is. He's a thing you can't control. You drop him in and he kills indiscriminately, destroys indiscriminately. And because he's not Hulk's not really an intelligent being necessarily. Like, the Hulk's going to do things that will even inadvertently kill a bunch of people who are not related to the situation.
I can see that happening.
And then I also asked the question, what is it the Hulk can accomplish destruction-wise or operation-wise that a big bomb over the same base won't also accomplish?
You know, I not to say that the Hulk isn't as destructive as a big bomb, because he could be.
Sure.
But I do see him a little bit more, I guess, like precise than just a big bomb exploding something over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you may be able to tell him, just destroy this part of this base, because then we're going to come in and take it over. Or whatever it was.
Yeah, if you can
like,
control him enough, sure, maybe, but Hulk's not very controllable.
That would be, the only way this would work. I forgot one part of the premise would be that Bruce Banner is willing. Like this is his idea.
Sure, yeah.
Like it would have to be that way, otherwise they wouldn't.
Yeah, I could see that.
He would have to agree with it.
We would have to be, I think the only way this really works in a practical sense is if there's like technology that like our normal military tech can't counter. Like maybe alien tech, maybe like bunkers or vaults so deep under, so protected by such heavy shielding that only the Hulk, an enraged Hulk, has the power to actually bust it open.
Yeah.
Like if you have like specific operations like that, the Hulk then becomes invaluable. But without that, the Hulk is just like, it's a nuke you can't control, you know what I mean? And it's also a nuke that's difficult to cover up because he's a giant green rage monster who all it takes is one cell phone to capture him. There's a giant green rage monster that keeps attacking American enemies.
What a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't know what Bruce Banner was doing there. You know what I mean? Like,
but also, like, do other heroes exist in this world? What about villains?
You know what? I was just about to bring that in because, yes. And I was going to say, I think this would be where he would be invaluable. Is because
when you need him to counter other
we would not have we would not have the monopoly on superpowered individuals or whatever, they would be elsewhere too, including with our enemies,
right? But if that's the case, like, isn't that just what the Avengers do? That's what they use the Hulk for. He's the muscle who counters the enemy's muscle,
and that also brings up another thing too, like when they had the Sokovia Accords, something like that. There would be... I also think, too, though, I think it would be rare that you would be... Even if people knew that the military was using him. Let's say they did, right? And people were like, oh, hell yeah. Like, whoever our enemy is now, like, they have, like, their baddie with superpowers. So, Hulk's going to kick their butt, right? But I kind of do think there would be so much bureaucratic tape, that they would probably have all these things all the checklists. You got to check everything down before he could even be considered to be brought there.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how that would go exactly. It's difficult to talk about like the ethics and morals of like the actions of the heroes in a world that like didn't ask for their help kind of deal. Like, with great power comes great responsibility, but also if you blatantly just act as however you want in the face of like all the laws of the land, like what are you but like not an anarchist, but like you're a threat to society as a whole. Like you answer to no one. And if I've seen anything in the course of history, every single time, well, not every single time, but so many times whenever someone comes into a great amount of power, they use that power to enforce their own will, which usually ends in the misery of millions. Yeah. So, like, you can't become a tyrannical despot as a hero either. At that point, you're no longer a hero. But if there are villains and aliens and all this other terrible shit threatening society, it then turns into the Kaiju Jaeger situation, where it's like, who cares what the heroes do? Like, without them, everything falls apart. So they get to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's almost definitely what happens in that case.
Yeah, if he was ever even going to be involved in the military, it would definitely have to be one of those, end of the world scenarios where that's your last resort.
Yeah. But in a world, in like the real world, let's say they develop the Hulk in our world now, like, there's no I don't think there's a feasible way of using him. Yeah. And if you were to use him, I think the public outcry would just be so horrendously strong that you would just be forced not to.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
I think that point, it would definitely be a situation to where it doesn't matter what he's going to be able to do for the military. The people would be so outraged that, the decision makers that would be making the decision to use him or not would be voted out at some point or another. They would be like, no more. Like, that's it.
Now, let's say you had a Thor, though. Mm-hmm. That's a totally different scenario, because Thor is not going to go on a rampage. Let's say you have a conscientious Thor who's going to try and do the right thing and also going to do as he's ordered and not go beyond that and not impose his will on others. He's going to follow the directions of the military. You bet your fucking ass the military's using the shit out of him. Yeah. And there'll be public outcry, but not enough.
You don't think so?
There's going to be glorifying of this entity as well. Mm-hmm. Just like there's glorifying of the U.S. military amongst a certain subsect of people already. Yeah. People are going to be getting Thor tattoos with him painted in the American flag. He
would be used, oh my God, for propaganda.
Absolutely. Sam. Yes.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. It would be,
U.S. Thor. Dude. So it's the chaotic volatility of Hulk that makes him unusable in the way that you present. Mm-hmm. But a more controllable, personable, conscientious and intelligent individual who's capable of the same thing.
Power too.
That's having a nuke and being able to use it, and that's having a big stick and putting everyone in their place. And,
you could argue though too. I that would also though, you're right, Thor would have to be willing and be like, this is my idea, this is what I want to do. Yeah. Because you would also have to think too, on the other side of that coin would be Thor being, he's from Asgard. You know what I mean? So he's going to look at us
I'm talking about let's say we create a Thor.
Oh, we created a Thor. Yeah. Oh, okay. That might be a little different.
Which they do in Civil War in the comics. There's a mechanical Thor named Ragnarok who goes berserk. He rips Goliath in half. It's a mess.
Oh, really?
It's a mess. He's developed by Reed Richards' Iron Man and what's the dude? The original Ant-Man. What's his name?
Oh, it's Hank Pym?
Hank Pym, yeah. Always those three doing the fairies.
I know. Seriously.
And so they create this fake Thor using Thor's DNA, because at this point Thor's dead. Yeah. And so they make this guy named Ragnarok, and he just goes on a rampage. They can't control him. He goes on a rampage. But when Thor comes back to life and he finds out, he beats the shit out of Iron Man for using his DNA and basically dragging his name through the mud. Yeah. And Iron Man, he's similar enough to the MCU Iron Man. He's got a plan for everything. So he's got anti-Thor this. He's got all this stuff. And he throws everything he has at Thor. Yeah. And Thor is just kind of like the Hulk. Is did you really think any of your tech was really going to take me down? I'm fucking Thor. Yeah. And he just beats the tar out of him. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, dude. I see. Okay.
Because Iron Man in the comics is kind of a dickhead. He's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, I even in the MCU, I kind of see that little.
He's morally gray. He's complicated. He's a guy who wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Tony Stark in the comics isn't a guy who wants to do the right thing. It's just he is sleazy and he's definitely morally questionable a lot of the time.
Yeah. And you're right about the Thor having to be created by us, because I was just about to say, if he then wasn't, he's going he would go, oh, hey, you know what? We need you to destroy that over there. And he would probably be like, why am I going to get involved in the matters of humans? Yes, you know what I mean? This is your problem. You fix it.
Right, exactly.
That's a new thing.
But again, my point was just that Hulk's too chaotic and volatile for it to be feasible. But if you had a more controllable, clean, protocol situation thing going on, you could do it.
But dude, could you imagine?
And that is all we have for you tonight. We will continue to bring you up-to-date coverage as new imaginings develop. Please don't forget to leave an iTunes review, subscribe, and leave a comment. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at DCYImagine. And if you would like to contact us or tell us what you are imagining, you can email us at dudecouldyoumagine@gmail.com. This has been Fritz Frivolous, and from all of us here at Dude Could You Imagine, keep on imagining.